We're going to call this meeting to an order. We have a roll call. All current board members are here, except for one that's missing that will be.
Yes, officially, she will be sworn in open session. So at this time, she doesn't sit at the board dais.
Okay, any public comments on the closed session items? Seeing none, we adjourn. 7:06 p.m. We're doing a roll call for our board here. We have all board members present. We have one being introduced as host this evening.
Yes, Victoria Lenderman will be sworn in a minute. Judge Thomason is here, and so we will do that shortly.
Sounds good. Thank you. We have our student representatives, Rafael from McNair High.
Good evening.
Good evening. And Caitlin from Lodi High.
Good evening.
Good evening, Caitlin. We have pledge of allegiance, and if Rafael can lead us for that.
Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rafael. We have reports on actions from closed session. For student matters, placement of non-public school students. Mr. Nava motion, Ms. McFarland second, and the board approved the placement of new non-public school student number 65 by the following vote of 6 ayes and 0 noes. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, claim 637047. Mr. Porter motion, Ms. Alexander second, and the board rejected the claim 637047 by the following vote of 6 ayes and 0 noes. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, claim number 647330. The board reject Ms. McFarland motion, Mr. Nava second, and the board rejected claim 647330 by 6 ayes and 0 noes. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, claim number 647824. Mr. Stowe motion and Mr. Porter second, and the board rejected the claim number 647824 by 6 ayes and 0 noes. We have a moment of silence, please, for Kenneth Hayden, Sr., worked as an adjournment special education paraeducator since 2017. Teachers he worked with described him as a kind, friendly, punctual, supportive, witty, and noted he had a way of making every student feel valued, capable, and cared for, no matter what challenges they faced. Please join the board in offering their condolences to Mr. Hayden's family and to the many teachers and students he assisted over the years. Thank you so much, everybody.
Members of the board, at this time, it is an opportunity for us to invite the Honorable Lauren P. Thomason, Judge for Superior Court of San Joaquin County, to administer the oath of office to the following board members: Victoria Lenderman, Trustee Area 2. So at this time, if Victoria Lenderman could come up front in front of the dais. Rommel Ball, Trustee Area 6, if you two would join Victoria up front, and Joe Nava, Trustee Area 7. Judge Thomason, we appreciate you coming and being part of this. You are a part of the Lodi Unified School District family, and we appreciate you much. So thank you.
Please raise your right hand. I, please state your name,
I,
I,
Joe Nava,
Victoria Lenderman,
do solemnly affirm
Do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I
that I will
will
support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith
and
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Constitution
to the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of California,
of the State of California,
and that I take this obligation freely
and I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which
upon which
I'm about to enter.
that I'm about to enter.
We appreciate you doing this, so thank you very much. Oh, you don't get to leave now. You will come up front and you will sit next to Ball for now. All right,
Thank
I
you
hand
so
it back
much.
to you.
So we have board organization, election of officers, verbal roll call vote to allow for multiple nominations is how this will be conducted. We have the officers to be elected today as president, vice president, and the clerk. For 2025 president, do we have a nomination?
I'd like to make a nomination.
Yes, Mr. Porter?
I'd like to recommend or nominate Dr. Rama Ball.
I'd like to second that.
Do we have a motion in place and a second already? Do we have a board vote? It is a verbal roll call vote. All in favor? Or can you start from one end?
Yeah, I would go one at a time, and if you want to start here, I mean, it's
Okay,
It's up to you.
can we start with Ms. Alexander, please?
Aye.
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 Mr. Stowe?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with a 6-0 vote. 7-0.
you still have to vote. That's right.
For myself. Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Porter and Ms. McFarland. Thank you so much, and I vote yes.
Okay.
So 7-0.
Congratulations. Looks like you get to stay in the hot seat for now.
All right. For the 2025 vice president, do we have a
Madam Chairman, I nominate Sherry Alexander.
I'd like to second that.
Sherry Lewis.
No, you can't nominate Sherry Lewis. It is Sherry Alexander.
I said it.
I know.
Thank you for that, Mr. Nava and Ms. McFarland. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a board vote for that? Mr. Porter?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ms.
Aye.
Lee? Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to be Sherry Lewis if there's any problems. I'll take it. Yes, I, thank you.
Thank you. That motion passes with 7-0. For 2025 clerk, do we have a nomination?
I nominate Sue Farrell.
Oh, I'll second.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, Jeff Stroh nominated and Mr. Porter seconded, just so it's on the record.
Thank you. We'll take a board vote for that. Ms. Alexander?
Definitely I.
Aye.
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 Thank you. We have a 7-0 and motion passes.
Point of clarification, I think this is the first time we've had all women.
Quick question for the staff. Were you able to note all of that, or would you like a written?
We have all that.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we have YouTube just in case we don't.
The board does take a recess here for a few minutes as we readjust the seating, so just bear with us.
Yes, and as we take a recess, I know Victoria Linderman has family and friends here with her, and anyone else I know Chelsea will also be taking pictures of Victoria as a new member of our board. And so with that, congratulations to everyone. We will begin switching seats as necessary, so we are on a recess for 5
Thank you, everybody. We'll bring this meeting to session back again. We have our board organization 2025 calendar of meetings. Do we have any public comments?
Hi, members of the board, cabinet, Ms. Lennon Wilkins, president of the Lodi Education Association. I just really object to having meetings during breaks. It makes it hard for the public and for, excuse me, teachers, other teachers, students, other employees, other constituents to attend meetings. And so I know you have one on March 18th and one again on October 7th. So that is my primary comment. Yeah, it makes it hard for people to attend, and students as well, our student representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any student comments?
Good evening, President Ball, members of the board, and Mr. Young. First, I want to acknowledge our students and staff who participated in the annual
Well, you know what, Raphael, this is,
Just comments on the.
okay, this is just comments, sorry.
Sorry about that. This is comments on the calendar of meetings. Okay, are you good with it? Okay. Do we have any board comments?
Yes, Dr. Ball. I checked this agenda and the calendar, and I would like to propose to have meetings at McNair and Bear Creek. We've done it in the past, and we need to have some involvement in North Stockton. As you know, half of our population is in North Stockton. I propose we have May 6th, 2025 to be at Bear Creek. And I propose to have September 16th, 2025 at McNair.
Mr. Now, funny clarification, what was did you say it was December?
May 6th, 2025 at Bear Creek. September 16th.
Oh, thank you.
2025 at McNair.
Mr. Now, members of the board, if that's what you want to proceed with, are you flexible with locations? Because
I'm
at this.
actually, I used to be flexible, but I'm not, because I want McNair area to be representative. Generally, we have the meetings at Bear Creek, and we've had them all the time at Bear Creek, so I want one of the meetings to be at McNair.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what I was trying to say was, with the month of May, not knowing events that are happening in May, the question is, are you flexible with the Bear Creek area? If that is already being used, can we find another location in that surrounding area near Bear Creek High School?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay,
Yes, I am.
thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Nicole.
President Wall. And piggybacking off of what Ms. Wilkins said with the March and the October fall breaks, we also have a break in the summer, so if we're gonna approve those two, then we need to look at all those summer dates, because everyone's on vacation there too, so I'm not opposed to, I don't wanna get rid of a board meeting, but I think if we are going to not have those meetings, then we really need to address the three during the summer, because that's also technically a break too. So I don't want to give favor to March and October without addressing the June. I just think that they're all, I don't know what my fellow board members feel about that.
The question for this would be a technical question. Are there minimal board meetings necessary to conduct business? If there are these the sufficient numbers?
The calendar you're seeing very much matches the current year, and the business of the board never stops. The district doesn't stop. We do, however, with our student representatives, understanding as students, when we schedule which weeks they are present, we do not include the breaks as an official date for student reps to be present. They are always invited, but our calendar for students doesn't include the fall break, winter break, well, winter wouldn't be an issue, or spring break for students. but the business of the district doesn't stop, even though I understand for those other pieces.
No, my question, I'm sorry, was I should rephrase it. Are there minimum required meetings? Are we meeting that particular CSBA or wherever, whoever's governing, how many meetings we have in a year?
President Ball, members of the board, and looking at Valerie, she didn't indicate there was a required minimum number of board meetings. So I do not believe that the fall or spring break is going to put us below an important number.
President Ball?
Yes.
I think we should, I agree with Mr. Mott. And I think those are very valid points. So I'm wholeheartedly behind Mr. Mott on his issues. So that's one thing. The second thing is, the only issue that I have is we keep the schedule the way it is, except in June, we have 3 meetings. And I was wondering if we could lose one of those meetings with the consensus of the board. We have a meeting on the 3rd, 17th, and 24th. I understand that the work never stops at the school district, getting things done. But I did look at June, and we have 3 meetings scheduled for that. As far as meeting during break, that's part of our job. And it's on the calendar. As far as meeting during the summer, it's part of our job. We are elected officials, okay? So I would like to see us maybe focus maybe on June, but again, that's with the consensus of the board, because we are scheduled for 3 there, and it's a lot of work for staff to prepare. So again, I support Mr. Nava, but I do want to look at June.
Yeah, and Mr. Porter, if I might, members of the board, the only reason we put that 3rd meeting there is if something were to pop up with the LCAP and the budget, and at times in the past, the state has made some last-minute adjustments that require it. We place it there as a placeholder. Historically, over the last 3 years, that board meeting has been canceled, but it was placed there because of that concern that if neither the budget nor the LCAP is approved prior to that, then we have to hold that meeting. Otherwise, we do in fact cancel it. So
Okay,
that's,
I 100% follow what you're saying, and I agree with that. Thank you.
okay.
If we could get a calendar of governance, so all of us would know what's occurring, like when LCAP and so forth, that would help us as board members make decisions regarding special events and when to prepare and so forth. So I'm sure Dr. Ball and you will be having conversations about a calendar of governance regarding all the events the board members need to be aware of. And I believe
Absolutely.
CSBA is a great example of that. So I'll withdraw my question about June, but I am in favor 100% of Mr. Mott.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other board comments?
I'm in favor of Mr. Nava too.
Okay.
I have in favor of it.
Thank you. No other suggestions. I move that we approve this calendar with the possibility of having the 24th of June canceled if it need be.
I second that.
And that would be working with the board president?
That'll
and
come
we
in
would look at
as we
those.
go
Yeah,
through the year.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So we have a motion to approve the calendar, and 2 of the meetings will be held at a different location, each one at a high school, McNeil and Bear Creek.
If possible,
If possible.
depending on the events that are occurring. But we
Right.
will put it in the area in which that high school, Bear Creek, close to Bear Creek, and or McNair, depending on what's happening at those sites. And yes.
Yeah.
Why just a high school? Could we also explore other elementary school representation or other
We have,
areas
we
as
have,
well?
I'm sorry.
Ms. Linderman and members of the board, what I would tell you is the reason we have used the high schools is because of the size of either the theater at both sites allows for a greater number of people. However, historically, I remember going to board meetings at Julia Morgan, and I think we've had maybe at Ansel Adams, so we are not set on a high school, but I think that is the history of why we have used the high school locations. And they are somewhat central to the schools around it. But again, we can look at that and decide the best location near those 2 two places. Parking also becomes an issue. High schools have a greater number of parking spots than our elementaries or middle schools. So I think that's part of the history of it. But I will look at the dates and see what's possible. Certainly, thank you.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to pass this. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is this an electronic vote?
Yes.
Can we have student vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And board vote? Precinct.
Yeah, it did. Should be there and walk out. Yeah.
You have to log out.
Back in.
And then join.
Very good. Sorry about that.
That's okay, thank you, Michael. We have a board vote here. We have 6 yeses and 1 no, and the motion passes. All right, we're moving on to the Board Organization 2025 Board Subcommittee appointments. Board members are not obligated to remain on these committees, but we do call for volunteers for each committee if a board member wishes to not be on a committee. There's no voting required for these committees. Currently, we have the Ad Hoc Legislative Advocacy Committee. We have 2 appointees. For 2024, we had myself and Mr. Nava. I'm okay to stay on it, Mr. Nava.
I am too. Thank you.
Thank you. Ad Hoc Board Safety Committee, we have 3 appointees. In 2024, we had Ms. Alexander, myself, and Ms. McFarland. Are you both still okay to be on it? Okay.
Yes.
So that committee stays. And Board Audit Review Committee has 3 appointees. The 2024 committee members were Mr. Knaxed, Ms. McFarland, and Mr. Strode. So we need 1 additional appointee.
An option to, like to pull myself off of that.
You'd like to pull yourself. So we have 2 open appointment positions. Is there someone who'd like to serve on the Board Audit Review Committee? Victoria? We have Ms. Slenderman. For the committee to stay valid, we do need 3 appointees. Is there another person who'd like to appoint themselves, or you want someone else to be on it?
I'll go ahead and do it.
You would like to, oh, did you feel the pressure? Thank you, Ms. Alexander. The City of Lodi 2x2 Committee has 2 appointees. The 2024 committee members were Mr. Stroh and Mr. Porter.
I'm fine with that.
I'd like to stay on it.
Thank you so much. City of Stockton 2x2 Committee, we had 2 appointees, myself and Ms. McFarland.
I'd like to stay on it.
I'll stay on it as well. City of Stockton Parks and Rec Commission, we have 1 appointee, Mr. Nava.
I'd like to stay.
Thank you. Joe Serna Junior Charter Advisory Committee, we have 2 appointees, Ms. McFarland and Mr. Stroh.
I'd like to stay on it.
I would too.
Thank you. Long Range Facility Plan Committee, we have 3 appointees, Ms. Alexander, myself, and Mr. Porter.
I'm comfortable staying on.
I would like to stay as well.
Thank you, I will as well. The San Joaquin County 2x2 Committee has 2 appointees, myself and Ms. McFarland. I would be okay.
I'm willing to step off if you would like to.
For the San Joaquin County?
County 2x2 Committee.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Linderman. We have the San Joaquin County School Board Association, 1 appointee. We have a 3-year term currently for Ms. McFarland that ends in 2025.
I'd like to stay on it.
The next organizational meeting in 2025, a new 3-year appointee will be done, so end of next year, you have to stay on it.
Okay, I'll stay. Not a threat.
You have to stay, you have been appointed already. You will stay. All right, well, thank you so much for serving on these committees. The board organization, CSBA Delegate Assembly, there are currently 4 expiring delegate seats in the sub-region 8A of San Joaquin County. However, the board may nominate as many individuals as it chooses. Susan McFarland is currently a delegate with her term ending in 2025. Newly elected delegates will serve a 2-year term beginning April 1st of 2025. We do need a nomination.
I'd like to nominate Courtney for district clerk.
Okay, I accept.
We do need a second for this
Oh, all
motion.
right. Sorry about that.
Yes. We have a board vote to be conducted for this. Can we do it electronic?
No, this is a verbal vote.
Okay, let's do a verbal vote. We'll start with Ms. Lenderman.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Thank you. We have 7-0 for the nomination of Mr. Porter for our 2-year term for the CSBA delegate. We already have one, so we don't need a second delegate, or are we still wanting to do that?
You can nominate up to 2 if you choose. Each school district in our valley region is going to nominate, and then that will be, you can nominate up to 4.
Yeah, President Ball, members of the board, I think it's good to have multiple voices if there's an interest. We are the 2nd largest school district in our county, so having multiple voices at the table, I think, is a good thing.
So, does anyone have a nomination
I'd like to
for?
nominate Mr. Stroll.
I second that.
Sure.
I'd like to second that.
Too late.
Somebody already got it?
We have a motion with a second to nominate Mr. Stroh for our CSBA Delegate Assembly, and we need a board vote. We'll start with Mr. Porter.
Aye.
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 Okay, we have a board vote of 6 ayes, 1 abstain, and no zeros. Thank you. We'll move on to deadline for nomination forms and biographical sketch forms is Tuesday, January 7th, 2025.
That's, yeah.
I'm sorry.
You want to nominate anyone?
Oh, do we need more nominations?
There are up to 4 spots
4?
available, not that we're gonna end up with all 4.
Well, but 4 spots, 2 are mountain counties, and then 2 are in the valley.
I thought there were 4.
There's 4 total openings, but 2 are designated for the mountain counties, and then 2 are in the San Joaquin.
Okay, move on.
We'll go with Ms. McFarland's experience with the CSBA.
They just, at our last delegate meeting, they were very clear.
Okay, thank you. So for these nominations, the deadline to fill out the forms and the biographical sketches is Tuesday, January 7th. So do we have information available for the candidates?
Yes, it's attached, and we'll help them complete their application.
Okay, thank
We will
you.
work with them on that.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to comments from our student representatives. We'll start with Raphael from McNair High.
Good evening, President Ball, members of the board, and Mr. Young. First, I want to acknowledge our students and staff who participated in the annual Polar Express blood drive hosted by the American Red Cross and their health occupation students on December 6th. Together, we accumulated 89 units of blood, enough to save approximately 267 lives. This is an incredible accomplishment, and we're proud of everyone who contributed to the life-saving effort. Next, McNair High School hosted our annual Unity Week from December 9th to December 13th, celebrating diversity in our community. Each day, students dressed to represent a different theme. Monday was Flag Color Day, Tuesday was National Sports Day, Wednesday was World Peace Day, Thursday was Eagle Pride Day, and Friday was Cultural Clothing Day. The week concluded with the comeback of our Multicultural Assembly, which we rebranded into the Unity Assembly, which was held last Friday on December 13th. Participating groups in our clubs included the Black Student Union, DESI Club, Hmong Student Association, Vietnamese Student Association, Rhythm Emphasis, Kappa Emilia, and Mecha. McNair's Unity Assembly, the choir, orchestra, and bands combined winter concerts with Murad Middle School took place on December 4th, 5th, and the 11th. And I would like to give a shout out to Ms. Yates and Ms. Chan, who are in the room with us. They're our choir and band teachers. And the Snow Eagles had their first ski and snowboarding trip to Palisades Tahoe last Sunday. We would like to give a shout out to Ms. Whistler, Ms. Hagan, who is in the room tonight, Mr. Martinez, and Mr. Holmes for sparing their weekends by taking us to the snow. And now for some student and staff recognitions. A big congratulations to Adam Kachong, Alea Sebansolin, Faith Hayden, Joshua Major, Lauren Vang, Vash Yoon, and Violet Her for performing in the annual Stockton Chorale concert held at the San Joaquin Delta College on December 7th. And a personal thank you to Ms. Horton of Sutherland Elementary for inviting our student or government and volunteering for the Thanksgiving walk. And now on to sports. Boys basketball had their first tournaments of the year last week from December 10th to the 14th. Varsity played against Chavez High School, while JV played against Edison. Boys soccer will play against Franklin High School tonight. JV plays at 5, while varsity plays at 7. Girls basketball will play today as well against Oakland Tech. And girls soccer will play against Franklin High School today. JV plays at 5 and varsity plays at 7. And that's all for my report for this year, and I'm wishing everyone a restful winter break. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rafael. Move on to Caitlin.
Good evening, members of the board, President Ball, Mr. Young. We want to start off by saying at Lodi High, athletics, the student government, and athletics would like to thank Mr. Nava, Mr. Knaxted, and Mr. Lambert, and Dr. Seha for joining our first athletic luncheon for winter sports. Your presence and perspectives were greatly appreciated. Today we hosted a cookies and crème to offer a place for students to study while preparing for finals. Teachers were in attendance to offer their support. We also had our Winter Spirit Week that was last week. Students showed their spirit before getting ready for their finals. Tonight we will be having a showing of Elf as for a movie night. We also want to make a recognition for our drama club who just wrapped up their performance of The Beauty and the Beast. They did an amazing job and we are really proud of them. On to academics, speech and debate hosted a tournament at Lodi High organized by our history teacher, Mr. Shawcross. There will be a high school alumni college panel on Wednesday, December 18 with recent Lodi graduates. On to co-curriculars. Ms. Osterman and the Star Club organized a free candy cane grams to send encouraging notes to students for finals week. They had over 500 requests from students with their peers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. We're moving on to our superintendent's report.
Yeah, President Ball, members of the board, I'd like to invite up now retired board member Gary Knaxted, who is wearing a beautiful tie with Lodi Unified on it. So I'm going to hand over for a couple minutes for Mr. Knaxted.
Thank you, Mr. Young, for sharing some of your time with me. I have this problem that one of the problems I have laryngitis, but the other problem is I like to finish my tenure by giving my reports that I wouldn't be able to do if I wasn't here. So the first one though is, first board advisory report is the audit of the financial statements. This is it. And it took quite a while. This is my 8th year sitting on that committee. Probably the most exciting one because there was an earthquake during the report and everybody just stopped. All us talking is going, we stopped and started looking. Did you feel that? Yeah, we felt it too, yeah. So that was exciting. Bottom line is that we did pass the audit, and so we're in good shape. Also, I asked the same question. Is debit still on the left and credit still on the right? And the answer was, yes, it is. But you have to be an accountant, like you, or an old accounting teacher to get that joke. But it's still true. And then it was mentioned about Lodi High School athletics. The AD and the principal had gathered all the winter sports, their fall and winter sport team leaders and the other team leaders, and discussed what went right, what didn't go so well, what we can do to make a difference or to improve. And I thought it was a really good idea, a good team builder for student activities. Congratulations, Dr. Ball. As president, you will have to make quite a few decisions. Some will be easy, some not so easy. So therefore, I'd like to give you a little help. So Mr. Young, would you deliver the device?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I searched far and wide, high and low, and I finally found a little old lady who had one. And she promised me that it will always give you an answer. I didn't
Will
say
it be an
anything,
easy one?
yeah, it could be easy. Didn't say what kind of answer, if it'd be right or wrong, but she would give you one.
Thank you.
But I do have a warning also with this. The last time my vice president became president, I gifted the same type of device, and that person now is San Joaquin County District Attorney. So no telling where this is going to take you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And finally, I do want to say one more time, it's been an honor to serve on the board for the past 8 years. I got a chance to work with some great people, and hopefully we did right by staff and other mainly students. So congratulations. Oh, and finally, Mrs. Lincoln, congratulations on your election. I have one piece of advice to give you also. Make sure you get a good straw hat before you go to McAuliffe at graduation. I wish somebody had told me that 8 years ago. But for the last 7, I made sure I had one. Thank you. Go get it, guys.
I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you, Mr. Knaxted, for sharing your words with us. We appreciate it. Only use the ball wisely. Do we have any comments from the employee group representatives? Each employee group representative shall limit their comments to 5 minutes.
Dr. Ball, members of the board, hold on, I've got to bring this up. So I got an email from one of my teachers, and I really thought it was great, and I wanted to read it to you. So what this teacher says is, it has been a while since we have adopted a new language arts curriculum. It's also been a while since our teachers have been provided with literacy training other than SIPs. I don't mean this disrespectfully. Our curriculum department and literacy coaches have been working very hard to guide teachers in the best practices of teaching phonics. I have taken all the SIPS training multiple times and have benefited greatly. The curriculum department and our literacy coaches have done an outstanding job and should be commended. Kids in our district are reading, and that's exciting. In the upper grades, though, we do need more support for literacy so that they can work on comprehension. That's the next step. I'm currently taking a course on the science of reading. I would highly recommend the Science of Reading training through CORE and the Online Language and Literacy Academy. It is outstanding. I am learning the latest on brain research and how children learn. I am also able to see video clips of teachers teaching literacy strands. This is powerful to me because I am able to see, quote, what the instruction looks like, unquote, for each strand of literacy. It is very comprehensive, and I am already putting these skills and strategies to work in my own classroom. The Science of Reading is a framework of best practices by which all strands of literacy should be taught. We spend a lot of time teaching phonics in the lower grades, but what about language comprehension skills? Once the students can read, they need to start working on background knowledge, vocabulary, language structure, verbal reasoning, and literacy knowledge. These skills can be taught using any basic language arts program. However, a course in the Science of Reading can introduce teachers to the, quote, what, how, and why, unquote, of good first teaching in all literacy. For more information on where to register for an online language and literacy academy course for Science of Reading, please go to corelearn.com. Thank you. So this is obviously from an elementary teacher. I'm a secondary teacher. And in secondary science, the NGSS standards are very much married with literacy comprehension. And one of the first things that you try to do in middle school is not only get them to comprehend, but be able to write in a claims, evidence, and reasoning format. Most of my kids can't do that, okay, because they lack the basic comprehension skills. Once you get into the secondary grades, the texts are written at grade level. So if you have a child who's reading one not so bad, but 2 or 3 or even more levels behind, it gets tougher for them to be able to absorb the text, comprehend it, and be able to reiterate what they've learned. So I want to say this, teaching is not the same as it was 5 years ago. And what worked then, or even when Mr. Porter or Mr. Nava were in the classroom, those strategies don't work. Our kids have changed. Their brains have changed. Their brains have changed because of the onslaught of information they get from social media, TikTok, YouTube, television, all these other places. You know, they've always got a phone in their hand. And they are being bombarded. The board should be looking into innovative and research-backed learning strategies instead of a, quote, one-size-fits-all solution, which I kind of feel SIPS is. SIPS doesn't do anything for comprehension. It's phonics. And we're not always teaching it to the right classes. I said a few weeks ago that we had a teacher who's a GATE teacher, and she goes, why do I have to take SIPS? And she's in upper elementary. Why do I have to waste my time out of my classroom going to SIPS? Because my kids don't need it. Okay, they need more comprehensive strategies, but they don't need SIPS. They don't need phonics. I'm hoping that the new board and with Ms. Linderman taking place, that there'll be some more dynamic conversations on what our students should be learning and what kinds of materials and training we're going to give to our teachers to make this, it used to be a destination district. It's not anymore. Let's go back to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins.
Congratulations, President Bao.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mrs. Lennerman, members of the board, Superintendent Young. I'd like to report that we are having progress with Mrs. Church and her team. We are moving. First of all, I'd also like to talk about that on the budget, there's like a 3% carryover from classified. Those are positions that are not being filled. I do get a lot of calls from members saying that they're overworked and underpaid. I believe that if you pay our members a living wage, those positions can be filled and students can have a better experience. So, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move over to comments from public. A 20-minute time period has been set aside for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. The board cannot engage in dialogue about public comments because of the restrictions placed by the California Brown Act. Please do state your first and last name before starting. I have them in a sequence as given to me. We have, first name is Ron Heberly.
I still stand up the same way, yes. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I wanted to congratulate the returning board members and congratulate the new board member. I'm glad you are chosen to serve, and I think that that's very worthwhile. People ask me, so why are you on the board? And I said, well, if I didn't think it was worthwhile, I wouldn't do it. Well, it is worthwhile, and I had 12 years of doing it, and most of it was very enjoyable. Not all, but most of it was very enjoyable. The best part was actually going to the schools and seeing the school events and so forth. The next thing I wanted to just bring forward is I want to thank you, Gary Connexted. I don't know if he's still here, if he left. Well, he can always watch it on video. I really enjoyed being on the board with Gary. He is a man who definitely cared about the children. Our students and our families were very important to him. He had a very good perspective about that. He is a man of integrity, and I just thought it would be worthwhile to tell him how much I appreciated working with him. And I also want to extend a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of you on the board and staff. So have a great year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anisela Garcia. I'm sorry, Anisela Garcia.
Thank you, Dr. President Ball. I love that. Anisela Garcia, Julia Morgan Elementary, and Leah Vice President. Sorry, one moment. What do teachers do? Teachers teach. They teach chemistry, letters, sounds, history, mathematics, world languages, agriculture, art, music, and more. Teachers also teach compassion, empathy, discipline, and respect. They solve small and large problems with Band-Aids, ice packs, and a listening heart. They write letters of recommendation. They take kids to the snow. They organize concerts and performances. They connect with families. And sometimes, as we see in our lives too often, teachers protect children by giving their lives. Knowing all that they do, all that we do, all that these people do, all the people that are listening at home, I hope that this next year that the teachers and the boards will continue to reach out to each other, to connect with them, and use our expertise. We're professionals in what we do. In that spirit, I have messages for you from our members, and I hope that you will take the time to read them. Thank you. I'd like to come get to them, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, and Bill Yates.
Dr. Ball, it is so good to see you as president. Congratulations very much. And Mrs. Linderman, we're so glad to see you in that seat, and thank you, Mr. Nava. Congratulations on your election. What a wonderful board. And I am super excited. My name is Bill Yates. I am a special education teacher here at Lodi Unified and a special education representative to the Executive Board of LEA. And Dr. Ball, I'm really excited because as you said, we need to fix special education last year, and now you're in the seat of the president. I really look forward to you pushing forward. And I know Mrs. Linderman, that was the key issue in your campaign, and I was super excited to see that the public had responded in that way too. So I look forward to a great year for our special ed teachers and our special ed students, most of all. I also came up here to talk about now we got to get to the real work, the bargaining, the MOU that was offered. And I'm super excited that Mr. Young came to McNair to support my wife, and she deserves another round of applause just for putting up with me. But I got a better Christmas present now. I wanted to say that according to PLC Solution Tree, the #1 way to improve student learning is to foster collaborative culture among teachers. And McNair has been fostering that culture for over a decade in voting over and over and over for their block schedule. Those teachers really have been doing the work of the PLCs for over a decade in the only Title I high school in our district, a school that's very unique to the rest of our district. And it's amazing diversity and some amazing challenges that are created by the area that has not yet filled out. I hope you would support that, because the only thing that was offered by the MOU was the destruction of McNair's culture. That was it was a very blank MOU that was presented from the district to the bargaining team, which I'm not part of, but I am an LEA member. And so I read that and I said, where is the offer? Because all it talked about was a 7-period day and it didn't have any schedules or anything like that. And so I would just hope that we would really look carefully at what the teachers want. Because the teachers have already done the work of creating different schedules in different schools. So let's support our teachers. And I know that as a big district, we would like to keep everything the same, but in a world of diversity, and the fact that you can have 15 million Oreos, and we all have our own unique Oreo that we like, can we please just accept the diversity of the district and allow for diversity of schedules? Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi Lee.
Good evening. My name is Heidi Lee. I would like to formally address the fact that I and many students have experienced many disturbing messages in the past couple of weeks, and nothing has been done about it, no matter how many times me and multiple students have reported it. I do have messages if you guys would like to see that, or if you would mind reading it out for me. Can I bring it to you, sir?
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand what's going on. So
Yeah,
I would ask that if you want to make comment about and generalize what's going on, but I want to work with Mr. Dawson, Mr. Lambert, to make sure that I understand the details, so I'm not also violating anything with our students.
Okay.
So if you would just share right now, that would be great, and then I just want to make sure I look at that to protect any students.
Also, Heidi, can you tell us what school you're from?
I am from Middle College High School.
Okay.
General context, this student has currently harassed multiple female and male students and have sent some very inappropriate messages, and it is overall really bothering me and a great toll of the female students from different high schools and middle schools.
Mr. Young, can we address Heidi's concerns as soon as possible?
If it's okay with you, we'd like to talk to you real quick if we can in the back, okay?
Okay.
All right. Sorry to see that that's going on, and we need to address that immediately, okay?
Thank you, Heidi. Kelly Hanston.
Good evening, everyone. Congratulations to the newly elected people. Welcome, Mrs. Linderman. I'm always emotional, so already I'm just all screwed up now because that was very upsetting to hear. I was going to talk about a number of things. But for a second, when Ann was talking about all the wonderful things that we as teachers do, I was thinking of all the things I did today. A lot of them were things she named, and how important the relationships you have with children are. And then I was going to speak about how our cost of living raises. From what I understand, I hope I'm misunderstanding this, that it's not going to be retroactive to the beginning of the school year, which is a normal procedure, and that it seems that because we're concerned about every one of our union members receiving the same benefit for the extra money that was found that's being offered to offset the increases in our health care. And even though our members are not receiving health care from the district, they still are paying health care somewhere. And we just want to have everyone benefit from this found money. And that makes me think of the relationships that we have as teachers, with our administrators, with our leaders. And it doesn't feel good. That young girl that was up here, she doesn't feel good about things that are going on, and I hope it gets taken care of. And I hope that my friends at McNair, that you make them feel good about what they've worked so hard to establish. I remember when we first started having the media block system. I don't even know what to call it properly. I'm just a 6th grade teacher. But I remember my kids from Sutherland going on to there and coming and telling me about all the great things they experienced, how much they loved their teachers, how important it was, how good they felt at school. And I hope that we are thinking wisely about the relationships that they've established, the culture they've created, and that we start making decisions based on feelings. And I know that's kind of silly for some people too, but I am all about feelings. My students, I came earlier in the year and complained because they were all ones, and a lot of them are still ones, but the feelings I've created in the classrooms kind of bit me on the butt because they all feel great about themselves. And I want them to push them and make them want more, but they're all really happy, and they look around and like everyone else is just like them, so they think they're all doing great. And I'm like, the real world's out there. And my feelings, I lay in bed at night worrying about how I'm gonna accelerate each kid so that they can have their full potential. And I've been working in this district for 35 years. And I'm really insulted by the way things are going with our bargaining right now. Thank you. Merry Christmas, welcome. And I hope you take care of that, Mr. Young.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. We have Aaron Chester-Brown.
My name is Erin Chesterbrod. I am a teacher at McNair High School. I teach math. Math, one of the hardest topics that we have to teach. Block schedule allows me to teach math with multiple modalities and activities through the time period. I can do activities that other traditional time scheduled schools can't. My kids excel, they like it, they have opportunities. And right now, a lot of them are extremely upset because of the threat to our existence, basically. That how we work is being disregarded. That our very culture and who we are hasn't even been observed by many other teachers or board members. Very few of you actually came and monitored and looked and seen what we can do. You're looking at raw numbers instead of what we're actually doing with our kids. We have kids that normally wouldn't be able to graduate who can because of our block schedule. And we would like it if actually someone would come look instead of making a blanket decision based on a statistic instead of the children we serve. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now we move on to public comments on consent agenda A. The public may address the board on consent agenda A routine business. Each public speaker shall limit comments to 3 minutes. Please state first and last name before starting.
Dr. Ball, Dr. President Ball, I don't know, is it President Dr. Ball? Anyway.
Either one's fine.
So, yeah, to figure that out. I wanted to pull A6, A7, and A20. Those are all for portables at Lodi Middle School, Larson, and Davis Elementary, respectively.
Again,
Go ahead.
pulling these board items is for the board to pull, it's not for the public to pull.
You can go ahead and comment on them.
So I've said this several times that we have certain schools that are bursting at the seams and other schools where we have room to take students. And there are certain schools that it's okay to overflow kids to, and schools that have room, but it's not okay to overflow kids there because the school might have a bad reputation, it might be a Title I school, whatever. I think we really need to, instead of putting in portables, we need to start addressing the boundaries of our district and even out what's going on. And this also happens to, like for example, at Davis last year, or beginning of this school year, I should say. They had an extra class of 5th graders that was not projected by those in the district office who do the projections. We have that at other places as well. I think we need to do a better job of doing our projections. We need to do a better job of balancing our students at different schools. And I also think we need to stop allowing inter-district transfers, because a lot of these schools that are impacted are getting a lot of IDAs. And if they're already overflowing and we're having to put in portables, when we have other schools that are not crowded, we should not be approving IDAs. Thank you.
President Ball, members of the board, just point of clarification, the modular building projects at Lodi Middle School and at Davis, those are not portable buildings, they're modular permanent buildings for those 2 school sites. The 2 at Larson are in fact part of mitigating the large size of that school until which time Gantner opens up. The other one is related to the after-school program. ELOP money is being utilized for that.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Young. Would the board like to, or the staff like to pull any items from consent agenda A?
Dr. Ball? Yeah. President Ball, I'd like to pull A1, A5.
President Ball, I'd like to pull A6 and A20, please.
You have those now? So other than A1, A5, A6, and A20, do we have any discussions on the consent agenda?
Madam Chairman, I move we approve the rest of routine agenda A.
Second.
Can we have a student vote
Aye.
Aye.
and a board vote, please? We have 6 yes and 1 abstained, and the motion passes. Can we move on to item A1, Mr. Porter?
Yeah, on A1, let me pull it, is he gonna pull it up for us? Yeah, he did. He's not doing it? Did he? Come up there. We're looking at the contracts list. I'll pull this in closer. I have a habit of doing that. I was looking at item number 3, and I believe it was item number 5 on A1. I brought this up many times in the past. I don't understand why we don't take these things out to bid with our lawyers. I have a very good friend who does large insurance for industrial and apartments. He goes out to bid every year with those clients. Makes a great deal of money, but he is taken out to bid every year. The board has no idea what services are being provided by these legal firms, especially when you look at item 5, where we've gone from $250,000 to over $500,000. And for me to vote on this, I would like to know what they're providing. Now, I know as a district that we have by state law have to go with the lowest bidder. But in this case, I don't think the legal firms are going out to bid. We don't know what private services they're going as a board member, and I have to vote on this. Now, this is money that comes from the students, comes from our general fund. And you have one firm that's at $250,000 going up to $500,000. You have another firm, Kingsley Bogard, which is working with Joe Cerner Charter, that's taking a $100,000 amount. What are they doing? I don't know. And you're asking me to vote on these with over $600,000. And I cannot in good conscience unless I know what services are providing. This is kind of like you go to a well in a town. That's all you know is the water from that well. Now, it could be that the well across the street's a lot better, but you just go to the same well every time. And I feel like we're doing this. We're not looking around getting an idea of what we could use our money for, or in terms of services. What are they providing? I have no idea. And I don't know if anybody on the board knows. All they are say is agreement with Kingsley Bogard LLP, agreement with Perry and Villarreal LLP. What are they doing? Now, when we get a contract for a building or a renovation of some athletic fields or whatever, we get an idea of what's being provided. Here, I don't know what's being provided. And I get back to my well analogy, where if you just drink that same water, you have no idea that it might be better across the street. Year in and year out. I think Kingsley Bogard, we've been with him for over 30 years. So as a board member, I'm going to vote no on this, and it's because I don't know what they're providing. And staff has not provided to us, nor have they ever taken them out to bid, as far as I know, on their services. So that's my feeling on item A1, regards to our legal services. It's been too much of the same people year in, year out, and I'd like to see us take a look at services, what they offer, and compare that to other legal firms.
Any other board comments? No other board comments? Do we have any reasonable explanation for these expenses?
We can certainly give a detailed description of the role that Kingsley Bogard is playing in the negotiation with CSE as it pertains to Joe Cerna non-certificated employees and putting together the collective bargaining agreement between the non-certificated employees and Joe Cerna Junior Charter School. As far as the relationship with Perry Villarreal LLP, that is specific to the role of our Special Education Office Administrative Hearing, fair hearings, and anything related to mediation of those potential special education disagreements about services and disagreements with IEPs and so forth. So they represent us in those matters.
Dr. Ballman?
Yes, please.
Are these taken out to bid for services?
No, Kingsley has been working since the beginning of the request to become the non-certificated employees becoming so they're in the middle of negotiating. We did not go out to bid in that process. We are seeing that process through until the collectively bargained agreement is put in place for the non-certificated employees.
What about Perry Villarreal?
I know that Perry Villarreal was not always the attorney firm that we worked with. It was a decision that Paul Warren made a decision to go out and look at different firms, and this was the firm that was selected and works with our special education department and our SELPA to provide legal services.
Yeah, I'm not questioning our cabinet, but I am questioning the fact that I have to vote on this and I have no idea if we've looked at the legal firms that might specify in those areas or have specificity in those areas and what they can provide. I mean, I don't know, and you're asking me to vote on it. That's kind of my question here to the board. How can we make these large amounts of decisions when we don't know if there's other companies out there that might, or other legal firms out there that might provide better services? That's all I'm saying.
Is this something you'd like to table for now, Mr. Porter, and bring it back till you have explanation, or?
Dr. Ball, I don't want to table this, but I would like more information. So if tabling will provide more information to the board of what these services provide, and the process that we go through in getting our legal, process we go through in getting our legal firms, I would like to take a look at that. So I'll leave it up to your discretion and Mr. Young on what we do with item A1. I know that some board members might disagree with me, and that is wonderful. That's a great thing about democracy. But I really have a hard time with this amount of money and for me to make a decision on it.
Thank you, Mr. Porter.
So we can provide that information to you regardless of if you do or don't vote on the contract list. These are contracts that we already have. These are services that are ongoing at this point, but we can provide you more detailed information if that is what you would like.
Okay, then going forward, when we come up for a legal action, or when we come to decide when we're going to have legal firms handle our legal business, do we do that on an annual basis, or when do we decide on their contracts?
I'm going to just real quick, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Porter, you have really good, valid questions. I am going to request Mr. Young to give us this information in writing, in an email to all of us, according to whatever your Brown Act issuance. Is it all board members in one? You want to divide it up, it's fine, but I would like to proceed with taking an action on item A1.
Dr. Ball, this is why I nominated you for president, and I agree.
Thank you. We have item A1, and I would like to take it to a motion.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve this item A1.
Second.
Can I have a student vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
And a board vote, please. Thank you. We have a board vote of 5 yes and 2 no's. The motion passes. We move on to item A5.
Yes.
Yes,
this one. Call it out. And all I wanted to do, Dr. Ball, President Ball, was take a look at, there are some people that are retiring that I wanted to point out. First of all, Todd Harrington is retiring from special education. I've known the Harringtons for probably 15 years. He is an inspiration to me, he and his wife, and his kids, all of them, all 3 girls that were in my classes and I coached. This is a man that every day inspires me. And so with his retirement, that's a big hole for us to fill. Also, Carla Price, what a wonderful teacher she has been for our district. These are the type of people that get unnoticed. They year in and year out, they just bring it as educators. We don't notice them up here at the board. All we notice
Can you,
is,
Mr. Porter, use your microphone?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Carla Price, and she is a wonderful individual, a wonderful teacher, and goes unnoticed. And tonight I just wanted to give her some recognition. Excuse me. And last, I saw a former athlete of mine and student that is going to be a long-term sub, and I believe that's Lizzie McFarland at Lodi Middle School. So I wanted to give great news about that we have former students coming back and helping out in our school district. So congratulations to Lizzie and of course the McFarland, Mrs. McFarland, for her coming on board. Okay. And that was it. That's all I wanted to do.
Thank you, Mr. Porter, for those acknowledgements. We have item A5.
Motion
To
approved.
the motion. Thank you. Can we have student vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
And board vote. Thank you. Motion passes with 7-0. We have item A6.
Yes, President Ball, members of the board, Superintendent Young. I pulled both A6 and A20. These are our.
Would you like to address them together?
Yes, if we
Okay.
can. These are our first lease-back agreements since Lodi High, and so we pulled out an older template. So we need to make a technical correction on both resolutions to remove the word "her" from section 5, and a correction on resolution A20 in the title from 152 to 153 on the resolution number. That's it.
Just the corrections?
Just corrections, yes.
So since they are two different items, we will take two different votes on them. So item A6, may I have a motion for it,
Motion to
please?
approve with the correction.
Second.
Student vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Then board vote, please. Thank you. Motion passes with 6 yes and 1 abstain. And item A12, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approved item A12.
I'll second.
With the correction, sorry.
With the correction, thank you. Student vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And board vote, please. Thank you. That motion passes 6 yes and 1 abstain. Okay, we're going to move on to public comments for consent agenda B. The public may address the board on consent agenda B, student matters. Each public speaker shall limit comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none? I will leave. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Students do not vote for this. Board vote, please. Thank you. It passes 7-0. Moving on to other action items. Other action item 1, resolution 2024-137, award of contract and authorization to begin work for the Tokay High School baseball fields, project number 08005800600001. It's all right, but make sure I say it right.
Me too. President
Make it
Ball.
short next time.
Yeah. President Ball, members of the board, Superintendent Young, for your consideration tonight is a revised contract award for the Tokay ball fields. Following discussions at last board meeting and with the board's long-range facility plan committee, modifications have been made to this award to include the alternate for the Musco lighting and the option for a synthetic turf on the infield, which will be handled under the district's owner-controlled allowance and contingencies. If the board approves this award, staff will also begin exploring the cost of providing lighting and infield turf at our other comprehensive high schools. Do you have any questions?
Just point of clarification, you do also have members of the Tokay High School
Yes.
athletic coaches and athletic directors. If you have questions you would like to direct to them as well.
Do you have a user requirement specification on what was the technical details that were required?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Is there a user requirement specification on what was considered in the design spec?
Absolutely. There was a project manual that was put out through an RFPQ process that the bidders could use to provide their responses to the bid.
Is that attached?
It's found on our district webpage under our bonds and projects, bonds and reports section. It is not included in this board item, but I can definitely provide that in a follow-up.
Are you good with that, Ms. Letterman? Yes. Okay. I do want to extend it to public comments first, please. Do we have any public comments on this?
President Mao, members of the board, Superintendent Young, I'm really glad that this is still up there. Our students really need good fields, safe fields, luscious green, beautiful fields where they can play and practice. I'm just gonna keep on saying it again. We need the personnel to maintain them. Lodi does not have an irrigation department to keep these fields safe. So please considering making an irrigation department. Thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. President, members of the board, Mr. Young. My name is Ethan Vega, and I'm an 8th grader at Lodi Middle and future Tokay High student. I'm excited about the new baseball field for Tokay High, and I hope you make the right decision and approve the plan to start building the baseball field. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Do we have any student comments on this? And board comments now, please.
Madam Chairman, I discussed this for about 15 minutes with Ms. Holman this morning, and I am personally satisfied with what has been done. Thank you.
I actually, Edith, thank you for reaching out. I was pleased with what I saw here. I still have in the back of my head, the maintenance part of it, so I hear you. So I know you're going to be coming to us hopefully with a plan for that. So I'm good with this as long as we have the maintenance part.
I'm going to put Mr. Campbell and, I don't know, is Mr. Johnson here? They're here, we might as well ask them questions. And number one, I guess my question is, do you see anything that is potentially issues? We've heard about maintenance being a potential issue. Are there issues that you see potentially coming up maintenance-wise, bathroom-wise, et cetera?
President Ball, Ms. Alexander, thank you for the opportunity. Jeff Johnston, Athletic Director at Tokay High School. Scott Campbell, Varsity Baseball Coach, Tokay High School. We had the opportunity to meet with staff on multiple occasions, most recently last week, to review the updated plans. We also had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Young. We are excited about the project. We're excited about the opportunity to have competitive, playable ball fields at Tokay High School for both baseball and softball. Lighted fields that will allow competition without respect to daylight savings time. That's a huge, huge boon for us. We are satisfied with the conversations we've had with Mr. Young
and with Ms. Holbert about the project and its development, as well as the concerns that we had going into this. We appreciate the modifications that the board and staff have made to accommodate some of our requests. So we're excited and urge your approval. Mr. Campbell?
It was a long process that we've been going through over a number of years. I know that we've come to the end of it, hopefully. I am very satisfied with the plans that have been modified and have taken into consideration everything that we have talked about over the years, and the key aspects, obviously, I think, are the lighting and the turf infield, which hopefully the turf will hopefully take care of a lot of the maintenance that would normally take place on a grass infield. The bathroom situation, I know that you had mentioned that. We do have a bathroom in the T building, which is located right near the confluence of both the softball and baseball diamonds, which our principal, Mr. Avalos, has agreed to make sure that we have access to at all times during practice and games. So we are satisfied with that. I think that in terms of the overall comprehensiveness, I know when we look at Tokay, it's a great opportunity for Tokay, but what I also like about this is that it provides equity to the other high schools as well. After speaking with Mr. Neal Young, he made it very clear that if we do go through with this project, that his goal is to then also provide these same aspects to all the other 3 comprehensive high schools. So, and I think that's very important when we look at what we want for all of our students. It's not just Tokay versus Lodi versus Bear Creek versus McNair. We kind of need to look at it in terms of what's best for all of our students, and not just one high school, but all of our high schools. So I'm very satisfied with this. We've had very, very good conversations, and I hope you approve. Thank you.
If I may ask you to give us your name, please.
Scott Campbell.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Any other board comments?
Yeah, I do. My biggest concern is maintenance, and Ms. McFarland already approached that. My experience when I came in was the pool at Tokay was taken care of by staff at Tokay. And then it was just a nightmare in terms of when it was heated, when it wasn't, what was gone, up the pump, so forth. So eventually M&O came in and took over the pool and the entire facility of the pool itself. I believe the custodial issue and the bathroom stayed with the site. With this amount of money that we're putting in, it is my belief, and talking with Mr. Young, that we should require M&O to do the maintenance on these fields. And if we need to be thinking out of the box to do that, then we should do that. We cannot ask the high school to do this. This should be an M&O responsibility. And that way, if anything happens, Ms. Holbert or the principal can point a finger at M&O to say, get on it, get it done. And the same thing can happen with the coach or the athletic director. If you're asking the site to do it, it won't work. They're stretched too thin, way too thin. And based on my experience when I was first starting coaching there, when M&O took over the pool, things were a lot smoother for me in terms of practices and morning workout and so forth. So I'd like to see that done for our baseball and softball fields as well. That M&O runs the maintenance of those fields.
Thank you. Did you have something to add to it?
No, that's
okay.
it. Thank you.
I have another question.
Yes.
Was lighting in the community also a factor in the proposal, like what times lighting would be on, what the impact to the amount of light to the community in the surrounding neighborhood?
We do have, and I'll try to get this term correct, we have put together kind of a lighting spread on where the lighting would be focused. And I'm sure that the coaches can probably speak to these lights much better than I can, but they can control basically the area that is covered with the lights. So they can, basically what you're getting to is preventing the lights from going into the neighbors and kind of lighting up their backyards. So do you like to
members of the board, when we first started looking at having a lighted football stadium at Tokyo High School years and years ago, I think it was so long ago that, Joe, you might have still been an athletic director. One of the big barriers, and one of the things that I think most of us who are a little longer in the tooth remember, is the old school halogen lights. You fired them up and they just threw light everywhere. The environmental term that we went through at the time was light spillage, and that was the barrier at the time with when we did environmental impact reports on looking at lighting initially. The new lighting technology with LEDs, the light spillage is near negligible. When I'm at the football stadium, if I go over into the north, it would be the northeast corner of our stadium where the control box is for our lighting controls for the stadium proper. Yes, obviously I can see lights, but I'm standing in darkness because the light spillage is so focused on the field itself that there is very little overthrow into the neighbor's yard. As a general rule, we try to be very conscientious neighbors with our lights. So with the football stadium, which is obviously a fairly large facility, we have anywhere from 4 to 6 home football games a year. There's one major band review where they may have lights on, and probably 6 to 8, no, let me take that back, probably 12 to 15 home soccer games over the course of the school year where lighting is actually required. Once we get into the spring months and summer, the lights don't come on, but for a very little time if we need them later. But as a general rule, our events are all but concluded by 10 p.m. Even on a varsity football night, we're pretty much clearing the field out by 10:15, and our lights are off after that. So we try to be very conscious as neighbors. In addition, with the new lighting technology, the spillage and intrusion on our neighbors is really minimized.
Thank you so much. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay. Well, I am going to take this to motion, so thank you so much.
May I have a comment first?
Sure.
First of all, I want to make sure that this really gets done. I'm for it. I've always mentioned, coming from another area, is that some of the facilities in Lodi Unified School District are ancient. And any time that we have to improve these facilities, let's do it at all 4 high schools and equal. And I think that would be a great thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
move that we approve this.
Thank you so much. We have a motion on the floor. Can we have student vote, please?
I approve.
I approve.
And a board vote, please. We have electronic. Thank you. I did want to quickly add that it was a very well done job. Thank you. Moving on to other action item 2, first interim financial report, Mrs. Juarez.
Good evening, President Ball, members of the board, Superintendent Young. I would like to pull up the presentation, please, for the first interim. We're here to present the 24-25 first interim financial report. Tonight, I'd like to introduce Director of Budgets, Vikeshni Gayal, to go over a quick presentation.
Good evening. Good evening, Board President Dr. Bayal, board members, and Superintendent Sian. Not there. I'm presenting the 24-25 first interim financial report as of date October 31st. This report certifies that the district will be able to meet its financial obligation for the current year and the next 2 subsequent years.
Ms. Dion, I'm sorry, could you pull it closer to the microphone?
I'm not loud enough? Okay. Better?
Thank you.
Thank you. So, I'm asking for your acceptance in this report. Next slide, please. The projected revenues for the current year is 517 million, in which LCFF funds is the largest contributor of 368 million. The LCFF funds are around 71% of the total revenue for the district. Next slide, please. The projected expenditures are at $634 million, and that's the largest contributor for the overall expenditures of salaries and benefits. It contributes to around $395 million, which is 62% of the total budget. In comparison to the previous slide, we are deficit spending because of the carryover, which is rebudgeted into the current year's budget. The carryover was approved on October 1st board meeting. The next few slides shows the detail of the carryovers. The federal restricted carryover is 36 million. Next slide, please. The state restricted carryover is at 69 million. Next slide, please. The local restricted carryover is at 11 million. The unrestricted carryover is at 14 million. This totals to around $132 million. Ending fund balance projection. The district has a positive ending fund balance for the current year and the 2 odd years. Although it is positive, as you may see, the ending fund balance is also declining in the odd years. Next slide, please. The ADA and enrollment projections determine future funding as depicted in the graph. The district has been showing signs of declining enrollment and thus a declining ADA. The district is trying to get back to the percentage ADA to pre-pandemic numbers. As stated earlier, LCFF funds are directly related to ADA, which is 71% of the total revenue for the district. Next slide, please. Finally, the unrestricted ending fund balance. The commitments and assignments. The statutory 3% for economic uncertainties is at 19 million. The board designated reserve for economic uncertainties is also 19 million. We are asking for the board for approval for this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on this?
Dr. Ball, President Dr. Ball, members of the board. I have a lot of issues with this budget. I've really poured over it. It's kind of something I like to do. So here's a problem I have. If we go to slides, I guess 2 and 3. It says that our projected revenues versus our projected expenditures are going to be in arrears of 126 million. But, okay, so if you just take that 634 million minus 517 million, it comes out to about 126 million. If you look at slide 3, which right here, books and supplies, purple, $141,695,330. Okay? Now, we have never spent more than 30 million, even in an adoption year, on books and supplies. Okay? So 126 million that were supposedly in arrears is sitting right there. I think you guys really need to take a look at this. Those are unrestricted funds. Those are funds that should be used for our students today. We need to start paying our staff what they deserve. We can't get para-educators because we can't hire them. We can't get bus drivers because we can't hire them. Okay? Teachers are still having to take, even though that we had significant improvement, they're still having to take second jobs. We haven't fulfilled what we agreed on in our contract for our CTE people. As a matter of fact, I don't know if the board's aware of this, there's a PERB charge against the district right now for failing to admit to or to adhere to the contract that we negotiated last year. Okay? That money that we negotiated, the pay increase for our CTE teachers should be going to them instead of sitting in books and supplies. Thank you very much.
Do we have any student comments? And board comments, please?
Yes, Dr. Ball, I would like for either April, the young lady there, to comment on that, on what the president of the union said.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Yes.
Nava. President Ball, members of the board, Superintendent Young. So in respect, to respond to Mrs. Wilkins' comment, the projected expenditure includes both restricted and unrestricted, and slide 4 through 6 provides the restricted portion, the detail of them, which a lot of them are not for ongoing, such as salary and benefits to be used. These are intended for what its purpose. A lot of them are very restricted to programs. So most of them are sitting on the 4,000, and they could be reallocated or rebudgeted, but most of them are very restrictive. So this includes both restricted and unrestricted. This page, slide number 2.
Thank you, April.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Can I have a motion then, please?
Madam Chairman, I move we approve this first interim financial report.
Second.
Can we have a student vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And a board vote? Motion passes, 6 approved, 1 abstain. We'll move on to other action item number 3, the annual audit report ending June 30th, 2024. Ms. Suarez?
All right, it's me again, OAI-3. I'm pleased to announce or to present the annual audit report for fiscal year ending 23-24. And I'll have this. Sorry. I'll move over. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Dao Song, District Controller, and Mr. Raul Hernandez from Gilbert CPA.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, President, Dr. Ball, and members of the board, and Superintendent Teacher Young. I'm here tonight with all auditors, Gilbert CPA, and we are going to present it for your acceptance as the audit financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. And I'm going to have our auditors go over the required communications.
Good evening, members of the board. Raul Hernandez with Gilbert CPA, Senior Audit Manager. So I'm going to be going over the required communications, but before I jump into that, I would really like to stress to the members of the board all the work that goes into furnishing this report for both Measure U, Measure L, the district audit report. It may just be 96 pages and like 10 or 12 pages for the other 2 Measure U, Measure L reports, but it is definitely weeks and hours worth of work by management. So I definitely commend management, Ms. April Juarez and Dow and everyone that helps them in the unmodified opinion that we were able to express on the financial statements. So jumping into the required communications, as governance, it is your responsibility to oversee the results of the audit. As part of our audit process, we don't just express one opinion. We do express an opinion on the financial statements, which, as I mentioned, was unmodified, the best opinion we can give, clean opinion. We also are required, based off government auditing standards, the K-12 audit guide issued by the Education Appeals Panel, to also include components of state and federal compliance in our financial audit. So we did issue a modified opinion for the after-school education and safety program and unmodified opinion on all the other state programs. If you look within the district audit report, in one of the state compliance letters, it lists out all the state compliance requirements that every school district must adhere to. Unfortunately, there isn't much leeway in the communication of any errors or issues identified as part of our audit because of us being unable to quantify any potential error as it relates to the after-school education and safety program, based that it is funded on a 3-year grant. We wouldn't be able to quantify the materiality that this error could potentially cause. Due to this, that's really the main reason why we had to modify our opinion. There is also another required finding included in the statement of compliance findings related to state programs for attendance, but this was in relation to the procedures over attendance testing as part of our audit process. During the spring, the audit's broken up into 2 components, the spring interim and then the year end, where we really focus on the financial statements. During the spring, it's more so focused on controls, state and federal compliance. We have staff members going to each site, and as part of this audit, we did identify some absences that were misrecorded within the attendance reporting, but we did go through a representative sample of schools, so it's hundreds and hundreds of selections. Of these selections, there were 3 identified absences misrecorded. The K-12 audit guide issued by the Education Appeals Panel doesn't say consider materiality, it just says, did you identify an error? If so, report on it. So unfortunately, any sort of errors identified as part of this process would be required to be included in our state compliance letter, which is why we did identify that issue. As far as potential error, it was corrected, so there is no assessed penalty included, which is why we do our procedures over state compliance typically during the spring. So anything identified can really be looked at by management and corrected prior to us coming back again at year end. Then also, as part of our audit process, we do look at the compliance with federal programs. This is all based off of the risk assessment matrix, a major program determination, and then this year, COVID-19 Education Stabilization Fund and Special Education Cluster were included in our audited, were audited as with the 2 major programs. We did issue an unmodified opinion and no issues were identified. And as part of this being a government auditing standards audit, we are also required to issue a GAGAS or government auditing standards letter over the compliance with laws and regulations and internal controls of the district. If anything came up during our audit related to internal controls or compliance with laws and regulations that we deem necessary to communicate, we would be required to include in that letter. This letter only mentions the identified state compliance errors that were also specifically identified in the state compliance letter. Any questions on the first, before we go over our opinions? As far as the financial statements, that's really the bulk of our testing. Like I mentioned, unmodified, so no material errors in the financial statements that had to be corrected or communicated. So we're also required to go over some qualitative aspects of accounting practices. Fortunately, this year there was no new accounting standards. There was a new audit standard which resulted in the risk assessment process for our testing over state compliance to really be expanded on. As part of our federal compliance procedures, we've always had to include a risk assessment process. State compliance, that was not the case up until this year. Controls related to state compliance never had to be considered until this year as well. So as part of this process, there was really a lot more work that came with it, a lot more selections that had to be handled by managers. So overall, quite a bit additional work that had to be conducted in order to present this financial statement in the auditor's report. We're also required to go over management judgments and accounting estimates, being that they are integral to the presentation of these financial statements. We have to communicate that certain financial statement disclosures are particularly sensitive based off their significance, and the most sensitive estimates being the estimate of the useful lives of capital assets, the estimate of claims liabilities, the selection of the discount rate used in measuring operating lease liabilities and subscription liabilities, the net pension liability, the OPEB liability, and we evaluate the key factors and assumptions used to develop these estimates, and we found them to be in line with industry standard and concise and clear. A couple of interactions with management, if anything came up during the course of our audit. Any sort of disagreement, we'd be required to communicate that to you. We did perform our audit in accordance with the plan, scope, and timing, with the expectation of finalize before December 15th, the statutory filing deadline. We would be required to disclose any management consultations with other independent accountants. This would be akin to opinion shopping. If there was some sort of disagreement with management on how, say, a grant should be reported or recorded, if they would seek additional opinions, we'd be required, if it came known to us, to communicate that. To our knowledge, there were no such consultations with our accountants. And I always believe that in order to have a successful audit, the relationship that is built with management and the independent auditor should be one of, if something comes up that you're unsure of to report during the year, reach out to the auditor in order to ensure that this does not turn into an issue once the independent auditor does come at year end and say, hey, you reported this wrong. Fortunately, management has always been very forthcoming and always reaching out when questions arise as in regard to the reporting of anything unusual. We're pleased to report there were no such disagreements that arose with management. We do request certain representations from management prior to us issuing our final report. Management's just asserting that they were forthcoming. The financial statements, in their opinion, are not materially misstated. Everything that we needed in relation to our audit was made available to us. So we did request that in a letter from management, and we did receive prior to being able to issue our opinion. And overall, no significant difficulties in dealing with management. Staff and management were very prepared and cooperative. A couple of the audit findings or issues, like I mentioned, there were the 2 state compliance findings required to be disclosed just due to the black and white nature of the K-12 audit guide. Federal compliance has a little bit more leeway. There were no issues identified, but they do have like an extrapolation, and if it's under a certain threshold, don't report. State compliance, I think it's kind of evolving, so there isn't that leeway really, so any errors were required to be included. There was also one adjustment, I'll touch on that a little bit later. The risk assessment process is a new section that we're required to go over with those charged with governance. We changed the language a bit this year. Historically, we used to go over these bullet points and people would see improper revenue recognition, management override controls, and then they would have red flags all over the place. We're not saying we found any issues related to these areas. As part of our audit process, audit standards require us to include procedures within our audit to address these identified significant progress. In any audit standards require management override controls and improper revenue recognition to be assessed. So it's nothing unusual to the school district. It's just us communicating to you that we have incorporated this during our planning process and made sure we included audit procedures to address these identified risks. Meaning, if there were any fraud or errors, mainly fraud, it would be conducted through management override controls, suspicious journal entries or transfers, so we make sure to pay special attention to any items like that. No issues were identified, but those first 2, improper revenue recognition and management override controls, are required by audit standards. The 3 identified below, capital asset expenditures, debt service expenditures, and fund balance classifications, this is really just due to the inherent nature of a school district. Any school district with significant debt or significant capital assets, we would make sure that we incorporate audit procedures in order to really gain comfort over these significant audit areas. No issues were identified. It's just us really communicating to you. These were a focus of our audit. We made sure to incorporate audit procedures related to it. We would be required to go over any corrected and uncorrected misstatements unless they were really found to be trivial. If you look at our opinion letter, we're not just issuing an opinion over the government-wide financials. We're issuing an opinion over the government-wide financials and the major funds. As part of the school district's major fund reporting, the cafeteria fund is presented as a major fund, so we're required to issue an opinion on the individual opinion unit of the cafeteria fund. So there was an error identified within the cafeteria fund that we recommended to management be corrected, being that we do issue our own individual opinion on that fund. So this resulted in the increase of inventory, decrease of food service expense by $248,000. in the grand scheme of things, this wouldn't have been an issue on the government-wide financials, but since we are issuing an opinion on the fund statements, it was required to be brought on as an adjustment for the year-end audit. As far as internal controls go, it does appear that it did go through the typical internal control process. The supporting documents were properly approved and reviewed. Just the entry, it appears, for that inventory adjustment was posted in reverse at year-end. So, but again, just due to the nature, well, the fund that it was in, although not materially significant to the district as a whole, in that standalone unit of the cafeteria fund, due to our audit thresholds, it was deemed significant enough to communicate and to strongly recommend to management that it be corrected, which it was. As part of our audit, well, within the audit report, there's also some supplementary information included, required, and then regular supplementary, and then other information. The required supplementary information is required by GASB, or Government Accounting Standards Board, and this is composed of the management discussion analysis, budget comparison schedules, and then the required schedules of contributions and changes in proportion for net pension liability and OPEB. As part of our audit process, we're not actually issuing an opinion on these schedules. But if something came to light, some sort of material inconsistency with any of the information that we gained as part of our audit, we would question it. That's not come to light, but just really due to the breadth of information included, we just can't issue an opinion, especially the management discussion analysis. Whenever anyone has any questions on any sort of financial highlights or changes from year to year, I think that's the best place to look. But just due to the nature of some of the information where it's really narrative type, it's hard. It would be hard to issue an opinion on, so we just can't. Especially anything related to kind of forecasting for the next fiscal year, since we're only focusing on as of 6/30/24. The supplementary information, mainly required by the K-12 audit guide, we do issue in relation to opinion due to the procedures that we perform over the K-12 audit guide state compliance requirements. We do, in relation to the audit financials as a whole, we did find those to be materially accurate. And then finally, other information, this is new, but this is really just a presentation change. The K-12 audit guide changed a little bit in how it requires these reports to be furnished or submitted to the state controller's office, whereas this schedule used to be included within the supplementary information. It just got pulled out into other information, so now there is no opinion expressed over this schedule. It's just included for really informational purposes. Any questions on any of those required discussion topics or anything within the actual audit report or measure you, measure, oh well, I do want to touch on a little bit as well. We did meet with the finance committee early last week for about an hour and a half, so we definitely did go in detail over the district's audit report as a whole. But we do also perform procedures over Measure U and Measure L in the compliance of the district's expenditures with the propositions. We identified no issues as part of our procedures over those measures in relation to the allowability of those costs. But we do also include a finding or recommendation for both of those measures related to the requirement to both prepare and furnish an annual report to the board within 60 days of the completion of the audit, which was not completed at the end of last year's audit. But as my understanding, for all these findings that were identified, we are required to obtain management's response. So it's our understanding that management is actively working on any of the issues or findings that were identified. And as part of our audit, we don't issue an opinion on management's response either, but it's just really for your responsibility as oversight to take a look and if there's any questions to bring them up at that point. But any questions over anything included?
Dr. Ball, I don't have any questions, but I'm glad to see the report that you are presenting to us and reviewed, and you accept it. So it's very clean. I know that people and our staff are doing a great job, and it's very important that we keep the ball going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Thank you for presenting that report, gentlemen, and Ms. Young. Now, I do want to thank the management for giving everything that was necessary to get this done. I understand none of this can get done till the staff and management give the necessary documentation, so thank you. I do want to open it up to public comments first.
President Ball, members of the board. I'm looking at the final audit report, which is the second attachment on the board item. And on that PDF, I'm on page 24. And so I have some questions on the expenditures. So on page 24, expenditures under current, it says instruction. So can I assume that that instruction means that it is, and it's page 24 of the PDF, so I'm not sure what it is of yours. Let's see if there's a page number. It's 20. There's a page number on the bottom of yours. So can I assume that when we talk about instruction, that expense is basically teacher salaries? Is it just teachers? Is it teachers? Is it, excuse me, I have a bit of a cold too. Paraeducators, is it, you know, is it a combined of, what does that compose, that number compose of?
Dr. Ball, would you like that question answered?
I was going to request if we can make the comment, and for clarifications, I am going to ask you to give them to Neil so he can email everything that's needed.
Here's my thing.
Sure.
Okay. So we have 300 million being spent on instruction. And under that it says instruction-related services. Supervision of instruction, 18.5 million. And then underneath that it says school site administration, another $30.7 million. So I would assume that supervision of instruction would be the people here at the, along with school site administration would be the people here, not only at the school sites, the principals, vice principals, things like that, but also people here in the district office. So that if you add up those two, I'm trying to keep out the SELPA stuff, that's about 50.7 million. So that means that we're spending about, out of 300, if you add that up to the 300 million, that's 350 million. So only, so 1/7 is being spent on administration, which is a much smaller pool of people than the people who are actually doing the instruction at 300 million. That's something that I really am concerned about. So yeah, I want to find out more about this. I want to find out who is covered under this. Okay, and why are we so top heavy in spending 1/7 of our, excluding special ed, 1/7 of our personnel money on admin? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? I am going to request for them to be comments, and if there's questions, I'm going to request Neil to send those answers to everybody, or he can bring it back in the next meeting. Is that okay? I know you worked hard on the report, but don't want to waste your time either.
Thank you.
Do we have any board comments? Student comments? Okay, then I am waiting for a motion on this.
Dr. Ball, I don't know if we made a motion on the OA12.
We did. You made a motion and
We
Mr.
did?
Porter seconded.
Okay, that's what passed. I move that we approve OA3, the annual audit report. I'll second.
Student vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Board vote? Thank you. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you, both of you, for your time and all your efforts.
Thank you.
We are moving to other action item 4. It's ratification of the Memorandum of Understanding with California School Employees Association, CSEA, the pilot program, supplemental pooling for the health benefits cap. Ms. Church.
Yes, thank you, President Ball. And members of the board, before you is the CSEA MOU for the pooling of supplemental health benefits for your approval.
Motion to approve.
I am going to request for public comments before we make a motion.
Sorry.
Once again.
President Val, members of the board, Superintendent Young, I'd like to thank the board for extending this, even though it's a pilot program. It's a big thing for our members. A lot of members have called to express how thankful they are that their health and benefits pretty much mostly are paid for. And that's a big plus for our members. Keep our employees happy. So thank you.
Thank you. Student comments? Board comments?
Motion
No?
approved.
Thank you. I'm going to run the meeting, Mr. Board. You can do the rest.
I know, that's why I know.
Thank you. Let's go for student work.
Who is the second, please?
Stefan.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Aye.
Aye.
And board, please. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We have the other action item number 5. AB 1200, documents for Lodi Unified School District Employees Group. Lodi Pupil Personnel Association, LPPA, Ms. Juarez.
Thank you again, President Ball, members of the board, Superintendent Young. This serves as a statutory public disclosure of the collective bargaining agreement as detailed following to this board item OAI-6. In accordance with AB 1200, this agreement total projected cost is about approximately $632,000. This includes the 1.07 increase to the salary schedule for the Lodi Pupil Personnel Association, and also one-time expense of $389,000 allocated for health and welfare benefits for calendar year 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments for this?
Motion approved.
Student comments.
Second.
Thank you. Can we have student vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Board vote? Thank you. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Juarez. We have other action item number 6. It's a ratification of the tentative agreement with the Lodi Pupil Personnel Association. Mrs. Church?
Thank you, President Ball, members of the board. Before you is the tentative agreement with LPPA outlining the 1.07 COLA as well as the one-time money for the 2025 health and welfare.
Do we have any public comments? No. Any student comments? And I'll open it to the board comments.
I move we approve the OAI.
Thank you. Student vote.
Aye.
Aye.
And board vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Now we have reports. These are not to be voted, so there won't be any motions passed here. We have a revision to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee bylaws for Measure U and Measure L. Ms. Holbert.
President Ball, members of the board, Superintendent Young, The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for Measure U and Measure L play a vital role in ensuring transparency and accountability in the use of bond funds as mandated in Prop 39. The committees operate under bylaws that define their structure, roles, and responsibility as outlined in Education Code 15282. Following a review of the current bylaws and Education Code, we are proposing revisions to enhance the committee's operational efficiency, particularly given the challenge of filling these 7-member seats. The updated bylaws were developed with input from committee members, legal counsel, staff, and they provide clarity on member eligibility, term limits, and quorum requirements, while maintaining the original intent and principles of the bylaws.
Quick question here.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Holbert. So I see that it's instead of, well, not instead of, but this is an appointment by the board for all members. Is that right?
For all members, yes.
So,
And that remains the same.
So are we inviting for any applications? Are people putting in their names for this?
We are working on updating the bylaws, and we are going to be working with the superintendent's office to promote the openings that we currently have via social media and via our site administrators to encourage people to apply to be members of the committee, and then we bring them before the board in the process that's been established previously for that.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments for this? Any student comments? Or we do?
Good evening. As a member of the Measure U Bond Oversight Committee, we did discuss these bylaws, and as Ms. Holbert said very well, is that it should promote better efficiency and us able to get some work done. So we definitely support this. Oh, and by the way, thank you for putting it at the end of the agenda so I could stay longer. Thank you.
I still have to know what your name is, though.
Yes, ma'am. Ron Heberly from Lodi. Thank you.
Thank you. Any student comments? All right. Any board comments?
I had just a quick question. What happens if you don't get 7 people that volunteer? In the past, do we have interested people to do this? It's a lot of work when you look at it.
It is a lot of work, and generally what happens is we're unable to fill a quorum and have a meeting and do the work of the committee. And that's specifically why we're looking to address the quorum language in the bylaws. So a quorum of a meeting is a majority of the members.
Can I ask Mr. Heberly?
Yeah.
Time-wise, Mr. Heberly, I'm just curious, you've sat on this.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
How encompassing is this? And I mean, thank you for serving on the Measure one. Would you do it again? How's that? We'll do it.
Absolutely, until I'm turned out.
Awesome.
And that again is according to the bylaws. So we can still meet and talk about things, we just can't make any official votes and those kinds of things. And we can also communicate in other modes.
Thank you for your non-compensated time, which I disagree with, by the way. I am going to
That's
point
awesome.
that out.
No, it works fine. Thank you.
Do you have enough members on the committee at all times?
We do not know.
That's because they're not being compensated.
That was a good question that was asked. Unfortunately, it is stipulated in the Ed Code that we cannot compensate the members, unfortunately.
Trying to keep it light as late as it is. Any other board comments? Okay, we'll move on to the proposed revisions to board policies 2000. Do I have to read them all?
Yes, President Ball, members of the board, I know you have missed us bringing board policies to update them, but we do need to continue with, more specifically, my role in ensuring that our board policies are up to date with existing laws. And so before you are several policies and bylaws. for you to consider, and many of them have been at least 10 years since they have been updated. The first two, I believe, since 1998, they have not been updated, and there have certainly been changes in the law. So we are bringing forward these to you.
Any public comments?
President Ball, members of the board. I'm particularly concerned, Lisa Lennon-Wilkins, LEA president, with policy 2140, evaluation of the superintendent. It seems to me that as a taxpayer, I should know what my superintendent or any other educational leader is being evaluated on. And I understand that he or she, could be a she, reports to the board. But the performance goals should be laid out, and there are standards out there on the CC website, the California Professional Standards for Education Leaders, or CPSEL. I see no mention of any of those standards in this revision. And the other thing too is it talks about the evaluation. It says the evaluation, this is a new sentence on the second page, including personal performance goals, shall be confidential to the extent permitted by law. Again, I have a problem with that. Shouldn't the constituents, I mean, we don't get to vote on him, but we vote on you. But shouldn't we, as stakeholders in this district, get to know what our superintendent is being evaluated on? Because the performance standards for teaching are also on this website. We as teachers know, and our principals know, and parents who are involved know that this is what we get evaluated on. And I believe it's in our board policies that we're going to be evaluated on that. It's actually in our contract. You can go to our contract and show what we can be evaluated on. So why do I, as a constituent, excuse me, I'm tired, I have a cold, and all I want to do is go home and curl up in bed. Why can't I know this? Why is it so secretive? I have a major problem with that, and I think that in transparency, we should know. So that's my question. Why don't I get to know?
I'll have Mr. Young give a clarification on that.
Yes, Dr. Ball, members of the board, it's in my contract.
Okay, so can I go to the website and find a copy of this contract?
I know, Ms. Wilkins. We're not going to go back and forth. What I'm going to request is for Mr. Young to answer the questions that were asked in comments in email. You can forward it to the rest of the board as well when you send those answers. We'd like to know that.
Right, but we would then put the contract up on the website because you can't find it there either unless you get a Public Records Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Any student comments? Any board comments?
I just have a quick question, and maybe Mr. Young can help me out with this, because I'm sure it's a legal issue. Is there any way that we could do not a hard date, but a hard semi-annual, annual date for you in the bylaws? Like the third week of, say, January by, we do a semi-annual, something like that in the bylaws? Because right now, that's in your contract, is that correct?
So in my contract, there is a mid-year where we look at the goals that the board has created, and it's a mid-year evaluation, and then it's spelled out in the contract is when that is.
I just wondered if we put that in board policy that we have to have by such and such date.
I would recommend to the board that we adhere to the ed code in that process, and being that we have an existing contract, I'm just going to follow what that contract said, but I can look into it and see if that's an appropriate place for it to
Thank you.
So the question from Mr. Porter is if the dates can be put in or the specific times can be put in the bylaws.
Yes.
But it's something that he's going to look into and give us an answer.
Correct.
Yes, thank you.
Just add a quick clarification. Mr. Porter, you're talking about subsequent contracts like that?
Oh, yeah, not now.
I just want to make sure.
Is it, because
There's
it's
a
part
major
of,
change.
well, it's part of board policy, I just want to know in the
You
future.
can reference it in a.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Thank you. We have board advisory committee reports. Does any board member have any advisory committee report? Go ahead.
Last week or week before, we had California School Board Association delegate meeting in Anaheim that I went to as our delegate. There's multiple delegates in our Region 8. I was one of many that were there. I went to the pre-delegate meeting. Mr. Porter, I think, went to the actual symposium. It was basically, we did a lot of talking about how to lobby to, we did a lot of talking about special ed and things that are coming up and how we want to approach the governor. So those were all, those will be coming out and basically the expectations of delegates and how they want to use us to lobby. So it was good.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about facilities or?
No, you guys are the experts.
The facility, we're here, we're all here. The Facilities Master Plan Committee, Mr. Porter, Dr. Ball, and myself met with Edith and Mr. Young we spent a lot of time talking about the Tokay Field, Antler, Larson, the fencing, Lakewood, finishing the project on Lakewood. And I don't, do we think of anything else?
No,
Both
both of you covered very well.
There's just a lot, coming in from where I came in, I'm amazed at what it takes to the facilities end of this, because it's something new for me. So I find this whole thing very fascinating, and I appreciate the time. I know you put a lot of time into that to get that prepared for us to do that. So thank you very much, and always being available for our questions whenever when we come up. I don't think we talked about it. It was a lot. It was good. It was very great. It's nice to get together with the committees that we organize.
That's how things get done. Any other board comments?
Comments?
Mm-hmm.
About committee or comments in general?
Oh, on the committees.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. No, I'm fine.
We're all good. We can move on to board member comments now. Would you like to start, Mr. Porter?
Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate Dr. Ball and starting off on the first night, being president. What a great start. Awesome. And she reeled me in when I was going on my rant about lawyers, and I thought that was great. So, unbelievable. There was a comment made about myself and Mr. Nava that we couldn't teach. Mr. Nava is better looking than I am, but I only retired 6 years ago. So I might be able to go back in the classroom, but just to comment on that, so we have a little clarification. I know Mr. Nava he's great, way better than I am, better looking. He could jump right back into a PE classroom and lead them off.
I still coach.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. But anyway, I just want to make sure we have clarification. I retired 6 years ago.
Real quick, I'd like to welcome Board Member Lenderman to the board, and I too thought that Dr. Ball, President Ball, did a great job reeling Courtney in, reeling in the leash there, but I thought the meeting went really well tonight, and I felt that it was productive, and I'm glad we got things going again. Glad to do that.
I just wanted to wish everybody happy 3 days before our vacation and the end of another quarter. The year's half over, and how nice it always is saying to the kids, see you next year. And I guess our next board meeting will be next year. So welcome, Board Member Lenderman. We appreciate you here. Congratulations again, Dr. Ball, and happy holidays to everybody. Remember, keep those families close and warm.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I was just going to say, welcome. It's nice to have you sitting with us. Congratulations, ladies. We have high hopes.
I hope so.
I do want to thank April. Thank you for your report. I didn't jump in then. As your first helmet, the first audit, or the big audit, I should say. Great job. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Dr. Ball. Great job. Thank you. Gosh, you're like a pro already. And of course, with your work and all that, you're so experienced. Thank you. I'd like to welcome Victoria. Thank you for coming and joining us, and hope you had a great experience the first time, because there will be many, many other experiences. Everybody have a nice, happy holiday season. Thank you.
So I just want to start by saying thank you, and especially thank you to the constituents that voted for me. One of the craziest things I did was say I need to change things, and I'm learning a lot from you guys as individuals, and just watching this meeting. And so this is going to be an exciting adventure, and hopefully I'll get to make a difference, especially for the kids that we are here for every day, day in and day out. And so I thank everyone, the teachers, the staff, the administrators, that we may have our differences and that things are tough. We get another 365 days next year to make a difference, to make our community better, and to do things better, just in general, because our end goal is still the same, no matter where we sit, is to be here for the kids, to do something better for our community, and to see the next generation thrive. So thank you, President Dr. Ball. I'm excited to meet each one of you guys. You guys will find I'm definitely an engineer at heart, so I will ask a lot of technical questions. So I'll ask everything under the sun. So I'm excited.
Good. Thank you and welcome. Going to take this quick moment for a few comments from me. I do appreciate your trust in me, all of you, Mr. Porter, Ms. McFarland, Mr. Nava, Sherry, and Jeff, and Victoria. We hope to work together well. This is all for the kids. All of us are doing it for the kids. I'm not going to ask for a pardon on this, but for me, governance is very important. I will be running meetings short and sweet. I will be running them to the point. I will cut off. That doesn't mean that I don't like you or I'm being disrespectful. It's just because that's how the meetings has to be run. So I appreciate your patience as I run into the next year. And if you have questions, if you feel like you didn't get to say all you had to because the time ran out, feel free to email. Everybody is available on email, and I will respect everybody's time here as they come in. Everyone has to, most all of us have to go to work in the morning, so I appreciate that we abide by the time as we run the meetings. And I wish everybody a good, happy holiday season. Have a good Christmas and New Year's, and be safe out there. Thank you.
Oh, can I just say, in my 30 years with Lodi Unified, I've never seen 4 women sitting on the board either. And that's 3 officers right now, but you're next.
I'm going to adjourn. Did you have something to
Oh, I
say?
was just waiting for you to adjourn the meeting.
I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you. We need a motion.
I motion to adjourn.